Hey guys, it's Mr. Sheeline here. This is going to be another extra help video for you guys concerning and only specifically keeping track of sig figs. I'm just going to walk through some examples that I'm going to come up with at the top of my head to really show you again how it is that I walk through and come up with these answers. I'm just not making them up on the fly like these rules. It's really, you know, here's why we do it. Here's why it's so important. Okay. So, let's take a look here at some of the things that I noticed that we're really struggling with. Mainly the things that I noticed on the quiz that you guys took the other day, and some of the things that I've graded so far. So when it comes to sig figs, one of the biggest issues it seems like we're having a difficult time with overcoming is really coming down to, or is really knowing what zeros to count and which ones not to count. So if I have an example here of, like, I'll have this example, I'll have this example, and let's say this example and then this example here. Okay, so the question is, what are the give me the number of sig figs each of these problems represent. So, and each of them represents something that I've already gone through, both in the notes and the other practice videos. When it comes to counting sig figs, it all depends upon if we have a decimal or not. So if we have a decimal, we count from the left to the right, and we don't count until we hit a non-zero number. If we don't have a decimal, we start from the right and we count from right to left, and we only start counting until we hit a non-zero number again. And then when we start counting, we just don't stop. So looking at this first example here, okay, when we are looking at this, it looks like for sig figs, we've got a decimal. We're going to start here, so we're going to come from left to right, but we're not going to start counting until we hit something that is an actual non-zero number. So this guy, nope, nope, all three of these, nope. So then we hit the 3 here, and then we just have the 1, so we would say this is one sig fig. Easy enough, okay? This guy, same thing, just in reverse. Now instead of, you know, the last number counting, we count because we're counting from left to right because of that decimal. Okay, we start counting this guy, and we count that guy, and we count this one, and this one, and we would have here 5 sig figs. Now this guy, no decimal, so that means we are going to start counting from right to left. But we only start counting until we hit that non-zero number, which in this case is going to be that 8. So we don't count that guy, but we're going to count that guy. So 80 with no decimal is going to be 1 sig fig. The opposite though, if we do have a decimal here, start here, and then we read from left to right. So in this case, 80 with a decimal is going to be 2 sig figs. Okay? Easy enough, and realistically speaking, it's not so much as just counting. I've noticed that you guys have been having issues with. It's more so counting when it comes to knowing what zeros to count, what not to count. So to maybe one more, just to really nail this home, if you have a number that's like, let's say, if it looks like this, let's say your number looks like this, and then I'll mimic this number like that. So counting for sig figs, starting with this one up here, again, remember we're starting from because we have a decimal here, we're going to start counting from left to right, and we're going to count everything as soon as we begin counting. So we're going to again read from left to right. So when we start here, we count that guy, and we just don't stop. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you'd have 9 sig figs for this answer, okay? We count these 2 zeros. We count this one, we count this one, we count these 2, okay, because they're all significant because we start counting from the left, and as soon as we started, we just don't stop, okay? But then for here, we have no decimal that's shown, so that means we start counting here, and we're going to count from right to left. But again, we don't start counting until we hit a non-zero, which in this case is now going to be until this 1. So Nope, nope. So we start counting here, and then we'd count everything after that. So 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then this guy would have 5 sig figs, okay? And then one more idea, and again, I said that this video is mainly going to be just about sig figs, but to tie in sig figs and how we look at, excuse me, how it is that we look into, or how we use sig figs or identify sig figs with scientific notation. If we have something written in scientific notation that looks like this, okay, or if we have something that's written in scientific notation like this, if we have scientific notation, shoot, that looks like this, okay, we don't ever worry about the times 10 with the exponent. We don't care about that. The only things we care about are these guys right here. Okay, those are the only things we care about when we're counting sig figs. Because all this tells us is just how many zeros are going to be after these numbers, right? That's all we care about. Okay, I should say that all we care about, again, is the numbers that we have here. Okay, so ignoring all this, 9.43, that's 3 sig figs. 1.0 times 10 to the 102nd power. Oop, not 2, or sorry, not 1, but 2 sig figs. 3.456 times 10 to the infinity power. 4 sig figs. Okay? It does not matter the power in which we are associating our exponent with the multiple of 10, meaning this little guy, this little operation right here, we just don't care about it when we're figuring out the number of sig figs. We only care about those values. Okay? And then the last thing I want to cover is something that, again, I'm seeing some confusion with for some reason, seeing some troubles with. It's just the simple multiplication and division and keeping sig figs. So I'm not going to include any examples of scientific notation problems in here. I'll save those multiplication division problems for the next practice video for scientific notation. Here it's just simply this. If we have an operation that's like 80 times 80 times 80, okay? It's going to be 80 times 80 times 80. It's just the last number that we have better fit with the correct number of sig figs that we need. So when we put this in the calculator, what we'll get is this. We'll get 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This is what we'll get in the calculator, but it's not in the correct sig figs. So let's see how many sig figs it needs to be in. So this guy right here, it looks like it's in 1, 2, 3, 4 sig figs. This guy, 2 sig figs. This guy, 1 sig fig. So my final answer needs to be in just one significant figure. Now, in order for it to be in one significant figure, I need to represent this with a number that's all the way to the left, which is going to be this 5. And what's going to tell me if I'm going to round up or I'm going to round down is the number immediately adjacent to it, the one right next to it. Okay, so if this one, or if this number right here, that's where this 1 is at, if it were 5 and up, I would round up. But if it's anything below 5, I'm going to round down. So in this case, because it's 1, I'm going to round down. So my final answer is actually going to be 500,000. Okay, I'm not getting rid of these. Like this doesn't magically all of a sudden become just 5,000. No, it's still 512,000. I still need to represent it as something close to that. In this case, if I'm keeping one sig fig, it's going to be 500,000. Okay, and on top of that, we just don't eliminate everything before it. We just don't say, oh, I need that 5 and get rid of everything behind it. No, it still has a magnitude. In this case, it's a magnitude of somewhere close to 500,000. Okay, Let's try another one. Let's say I've got 94.3 times 10.397 times 39645. Let's say I've got this big old number here. I've got this guy that I've got to multiply. So it's going to be 9.43, and I'm punching this in my calculator. And this is the answer I come up with on my calculator. It's going to be 3886942.8.83. Okay? I need to know this is what the calculator gives me, but this is not the correct answer. I need to put this in correct scientific notation. So what this is going to turn into is the lowest number of sig figs that I need to include. So here we have 5 sig figs. Here we have another 5 sig figs. And then over here we have 3 sig figs. And we've got to go with the lowest number of sig figs when we're writing our final answer. So even with the decimal, we're going to go all the way to the left. And we're going to count the first 3 sig figs we come across. So it's going to be the 3, the 8, and the 8. So I can start writing the 3 and 8, but I need to figure out what to do with this guy, because I got to figure out if I've got to round him up or I've got to round him down. So I'm going to look over to the number next to him. Okay, is this 5 and above, or is this below 5? This case it's a 6, so that means it's above 5. So I'm going to round up my 8. I'm going to change that 8 to a 9. And then basically where all of these numbers are at, and I'm going to include my decimal as well, where all these numbers are at that we're not counting, they're just turning to zeros. So the 6 is a 0, 9 is a 0, 4, 2, 8, 8, 3, they all turn to zeros. And then I'm left with this. And actually, in fact, sorry, you wouldn't even count that because we only care about these 3. So what you're then left with is 38,900,000 as your final answer, okay? Because we've got 1, 2, 3 sig figs, okay? And then that's pretty much it. When it comes to multiplying and dividing, there's nothing tricky about it. You are just plotting it into your calculator like you would in a normal math class. The only difference is that your final answer on your calculator has to be very specific. The thing that you come up with, the answer you come up with, has to match the correct number of sig figs with the least number of sig figs in your operation. Okay? So if you guys still have any issues, if there's still something you have questions on, make sure you talk to me. It does no good if you don't get a hold of me, and I say this after every single video. Email me. Get a hold of me on Remind. Send comments and private comments and whatnot on Google Classroom. And when you do, please identify the specific thing you need help with. Don't tell me you don't understand. Don't tell me that you don't get it. I need to know specifically what it is you're having issues with so that I know how to answer your question. So be a little bit more specific in your questions, and please, if you're not one of those kind of people, or if you're not part of the group that does get a hold of me regularly, which is only like 1 or 2 of you, I'm not out of both the classes, it's only 1 or 2 of you, please, you need to get a hold of me, okay? Anything that you need help with, get a hold of me, okay? So get a hold of me if you have those questions. If not, I'll see you guys in the next one.